Hi. In this video, we are going to continue our journey to understand how to use open source models. In the previous video, I had talked about how to access open source, different ways in which you could access open source models. And in this model video, I'm going to be talking about how do we actually identify whether a model is truly open source or not. I'm going to do this with respect to the Huggingface platform because that is the most popular platform with thousands of models, and therefore it's a good idea to understand with respect to this platform which models are truly open source. The advantage with open source is, of course, the level of customization that you can do and the fact that you won't have to pay any money for them. All right. Hi, this is Shelly, and this is my YouTube channel, AI Economics. I take complex concepts in the area of artificial intelligence and try and decode them and make them much more accessible to people who do not necessarily have a technical background, but who would like to understand and get up to speed on artificial intelligence. If you're interested in this kind of content, please do consider subscribing to my channel. Also hit the like button for this video. Before we get into identifying on the Hugging Face platform what is open source and closed source, let me just briefly recap a little bit about the Hugging Face platform. This is an open source platform. That is, the platform code itself is open source. Hugging Face is a repository of many models, thousands of them literally. And some of these models are closed source and some of them are open source. Just to review what is open source. Open source is when you have for the model the code, the architecture, and the training data, the model weights, etc., freely available and downloadable. So that the inner workings of the model can be explored by other researchers and people who wish to make customizations. What is closed source? In closed source, typically you may have the code available. However, things like model weight may not be available, or details of the training data and the architecture of the models may not be available. So that's basically on the definition of the two. Also, coming to the Hugging Face platform, what are its benefits? It is a hugely user-friendly platform, which is why it's the first port of call for all beginners who want to start running large language models outside, say, chatbox query windows and want to do something a little more customized with them. It has extensive documentation, community support, and pre-configured environments, all of which makes it very easy to use. Its drawbacks are that it has some limitations on customization options, and also it does, of course, require a little bit of knowledge of Python. So now let's look at identifying. You've logged on to Hugging Face. You've gone to the model, the repository over there, the page where you see all these various models. You want to identify which model is open source and which one is closed source, and the degree and extent to which they are actually open source and closed source, because that's something which we talked about in the last video, that there are shades of differences. So there are various clues which you can look at to understand a model's openness. The first thing is there is something called a model card. This is typically a card which is essentially a file that details its source, its license, and access information. This card will clarify if the model is open source and any limitations on access. The second thing is in terms of code availability. If the code repository link is provided, it suggests the model is likely to be open sourced. Then third is the weight download options. Open source models usually offer clear options for downloading pre-trained weights, allowing you to run the model locally. So how to identify closed source on Hugging Face? The first clue that you might have is that there will be a missing code repository link, because open source models typically have this link. They may have limited weight download options, which typically is done in open source models, which allows you to download the pre-trained weights. Closed source models might not have downloadable weights or requires access to special platforms, or an upgrade or something. The model card might also mention aspects such as licensing restrictions, look for terms like proprietary, private, or limited access. Lastly, the presence of a notebook, because most models on Hugging Face actually have a Jupyter notebook, which is there of the code. But this doesn't really guarantee open source. Closed source models could also have notebooks demonstrating their functionalities, but these notebooks might rely on cloud access or limited functionalities without access to the full model. If there are some additional points on identifying open source versus closed. If you're unsure, try searching online for information about the specific model and its creators. You might find details about its open source status on external resources. Also consider the source of the model. Models typically from research institutions or universities are typically open sourced, whilst models from commercial companies like OpenAI, etc., typically are closed source. Now let's just talk very briefly about the kind of models that are available on Hugging Face. This is just a small taster or flavor of the models. Some open source powerhouses on Hugging Face are Bloom, for example, which is a massive open source large language model by Big Science, which offers strong performance on a variety of text related tasks. DBRX. This is the most recent open source model. This is by an open source model by Databricks, and it has just recently been open sourced and is available on Hugging Face. It's known for its performance on maths and Q&A tasks. Falcon 180 billion parameters is a huge and massive open source model, which is from the Technology Innovation Institution. And it has impressive performance and coding. So again, as you can see on open source, you have some really major models available. So you don't necessarily just have to stick to ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude even. There are other options available. Again, continuing some of the other important Hugging Face models which have been around for far longer than the earlier model, the models that I just discussed, but are nevertheless very, very strong and are can be used and customized for a variety of purposes, include a T5, which is text-to-text transformer. This is a versatile model from Google AI and can perform a variety of text-based tasks such as translation, summarization, and code generation. The GPT-2, which is the generative pre-trained transformer second version, is open sourced from OpenAI, and it is not the most recent one, obviously, but it gives a good idea of how the GPT series developed, and obviously has been open source for quite some time. Jurassic Jumbo, this model from AI to 21 Labs, excels at various language tasks. So again, it's another major model which is available. Then for question and answer and summarization purposes, you have something called BART, B-A-R-T, which is a model by Facebook AI and is used extensively in question and answer. And this is again open source. Distilbert, which is a smaller and faster version of the famous Google BERT model, and is again well suited for tasks in Q&A and text classification, etc. I will post links to all these models in the comments below, so that you can start trying to access them. I hope you found this video useful. I felt that this distinction of open source versus closed source models is quite tricky, and it is quite confusing to actually delineate which model is open versus closed source. Now, this point becomes important if you, for example, want to run an experiment. Say you're a business, a small business, and you want to run a pilot program on, then rather than just taking full-fledged access or a subscription to a chat GPT, you can run a quick and easy pilot using these open source models. Similarly, if you're a research scholar or something, again, this is very useful. Please do hit the like button for this video, and also subscribe to my channel AI Economics. Also do let me know if you would want tutorials on how to use these various models and for different types of applications such as Q&A, such as text summarization, etc. There is amazing possibilities with these models as well. So look forward to seeing you in the next video.